A few weeks ago, a friend called me about his father. His father had just retired. He had some money in fixed deposits and he also had a lump sum amount in hand that he wanted to invest. But he had one simple need. He wanted a fixed amount coming into his account every month to live on. So my friend asked me, is there a way to invest that money and still draw a steady monthly payout from it, almost like a salary? Now, this is one of the most common needs they have. They have a sizable corpus in hand, but only have one condition. How can I get a regular monthly income? And the answer often lies in something called as a SWP, a Systematic Withdrawal Plan, a facility that lets you pull money out of your mutual fund scheme on a fixed day every single month. Most people have heard the name, very few know how it works, and almost nobody told when it quietly goes wrong. By the end of this video, you would know what an SWP actually is and how it works, who should use it, when should you start your SWP, what happens when the markets fall, and why your units keep reducing. And the one rule that matters more than anything else when you set up an SWP, and that one rule is this: the success of an SWP depends on the gap between what your fund earns and what you're withdrawing from it. Most of you know what an SIP is. Every month, money moves from your bank account into a mutual fund, and SWP is simply the reverse. You tell the fund one thing: on a fixed date every month, send this much from my investment back to my bank account. That is the entire idea. That is it. You pick three things when you want to start an SWP: from which type of fund the money should come from, the amount you want each month, and the date you want it. After that, it runs on its own, selling just enough number of units each month to pay. But here is the catch. Just because you can start an SWP, it does not mean that you should opt for any amount or percentage of withdrawal from any fund and at any time. And these are those decisions where most people get it wrong. This one rule is the heart of everything. So let me make it concrete. An SWP works best when the long-term return of the fund is comfortably higher than the rate at which you withdraw. Suppose a fund can reasonably earn around 11 or 12% per annum over the long run. It does not mean that you should withdraw 11 or 12%. That would be dangerous because returns never arrive in a straight line. One year could be plus 18%, another year could be 7%, another year could be minus 8%, and the next one could be 14%. If your withdrawal rate sits too close to the return, the SWP does keep running, but the corpus starts to strain, especially when the markets are weak. That is why I like to see a healthy gap between what a fund earns and what rate the SWP happens. If a fund can earn around 12%, an SWP of 6 to 8% is far safer than pulling out the full 12% or even 10%. That gap is your buffer. It lets the corpus keep compounding, it absorbs the bad years, and it stops your withdrawals from biting into your original investment. The narrower the gap, the more fragile the whole thing becomes. So when someone asks what should be the amount from a fund, my answer is never just a number. My question would be, what is the type of a fund, whether it is an equity or a hybrid fund? What is the expected return from the fund, and how much gap are we keeping between the return and the withdrawal? That is the real conversation. Here is where I do things differently from most of them. When someone invests a lump sum, they usually want the SWP to start from the very next month. I prefer to wait at least a year, sometimes two, for three reasons. First, exit load. Most equity funds charge you about 1% if you pull money out within a year. Start your SWP straight away and the fund is selling units while the penalty is still live. That is money leaking for no reason. Second, tax. Sell an equity fund within 12 months and your profit is taxed as short term at a higher rate. Hold past 12 months and it is taxed as long term, which is gentler. And your first 1.25 lakh of those gains each year is exempt. Tax rules do change, so check the latest with your CA, but the idea holds. Waiting can quietly save tax. Third, and to me this is the biggest reason, if you invest today and start an SWP immediately, your money has had no time to grow or build any cushion. So if the market falls soon after, the SWP still continues, but it is now drawing from a corpus that is still very raw. That can feel uncomfortable because the value may dip below your original investment quite quickly. But if you first allow that money a year or two to grow, it can build a cushion over and above your original capital. Then, when a correction comes, the market first eats into that cushion before it starts threatening the original amount. Same SWP, same market, but a very different experience. So the rule is simple. Invest first, let it settle and grow, then start an SWP from strength, not from day one. this part confuses almost everyone. People open their statements a few months in and panic. My units are reducing every month. Is there something wrong? No, that is exactly how an SWP is meant to work. Take a simple example. You invest 25 lakh when the NAV, the price of one unit is rupees 50. So you own 25 lakh divided by 50, which is 50,000 units. Now you start an SWP of 20,000 a month, and on the first payout date, the NAV is 60. So how does the fund pay you? It has no separate interest pocket to dip into. It simply sells units. 20,000 divided by rupees 60, which is 333.33 units. So your unit count drops, and next month at a different price, it sells a different number of units. That is the whole mechanism. An SWP pays you by selling your own units, so your unit count will keep falling. That is completely normal. It does not mean something is broken, and it does not mean you are losing returns. Let's understand this better. Suppose you have a 10 lakh in an FD earning 8% and another 10 lakh investment in a mutual fund also earning 8%, from which you run an 8% SWP. In the FD, you receive the return as interest. In the SWP, you receive it by redeeming some units. So yes, the units may reduce, but if the return earned and the amount withdrawn are the same, your overall corpus still remain broadly similar. So don't panic just because units are falling. Units are the only mechanism of payout. What matters is the overall corpus after withdrawals. Let me show you something with real numbers by taking you through our SWP research tool on our website. Let's take an example of rupees 30 lakh invested over 10 years ago and assume an SWP of 8% per annum, which works out to about 20,000 rupees per month. We'll run an exercise across 3 different categories of funds, say a large cap fund, a hybrid fund, and a debt fund. We'll then compare how the remaining corpus changes over time in 3 different scenarios. Scenario 1, if it was started after 2 years of investment. Scenario 2, if it was started after 1 year of investment. And scenario 3, if the SWP was started immediately after the investment. The objective is not to identify the best performing fund here, but to understand how the timing of starting an SWP and the choice of fund category can influence the long-term sustainability of your SWP and the corpus. So let's look at the numbers here. We will first start with a large cap fund. We will look at ICICI Blue Chip Fund. As mentioned, investment amount was 30 lakhs 10 years back. The investment, assuming, was started on 1st of July 2016. Withdrawal amount of rupees 20,000 every month, which is 2,40,000 a year, which is about 8% of SWP. And let's first look at the scenario where we start the SWP after 2 years of the investment. You see, the current value of the investment is about 73 lakhs. We have kind of withdrawn about 19 lakh 40,000. Total number of withdrawals are about 97. And this is how the entire chart looks like. The current value every month and the cumulative withdrawal. And it is also mentioned in detail here in the table below. Now let's look at scenario 2. We look at the same fund, but the withdrawal would start exactly after 1 year from the investment date, and see how the numbers would look like. So here the current value is about 66 lakhs from about 73 lakhs if we had started withdrawing after 2 years from the investment period. Let's look at scenario number 3. What happens had we started the SWP immediately after our investment? The value is about 58 lakhs. Now let's look at a hybrid fund and see how the numbers would look like. For this, we'll consider Aditya Birla Sun Life's Hybrid 95 fund and run the same scenario. After 2 years of the investment, the latest value would be about 46 lakhs after a withdrawal of about close to 19 lakh 40,000. Let's look at scenario 2 where we start withdrawing after 1 year of the investment. The value is about 41 lakhs from about 46 lakhs. Let's look at scenario number 3 where we start withdrawing or doing SWP immediately after the investment is made. The latest value after withdrawals would be about close to 35 lakh 76,000. Now let's do this same exercise for a debt fund. we will consider a debt fund from, let's say, HDFC Mutual Fund. We'll consider HDFC Corporate Bond Fund, where the investment was done in 2016 on 1st of July. We are starting in SWP starting from 2nd of July 2018, which is exactly after 2 years. The value of 30 lakh investment post withdrawal is about close to 35 lakhs. We look at scenario number 2, where we start the SWP after 1 year of the investment. So from about 35 lakhs, it comes down to about 31 lakhs. And let's look at the last scenario, where the SWP starts immediately after the investment is made. The value comes down to about 26 lakhs, which is technically lower than the return, lower than our actual investment amount. Now, the important thing to understand here is that once the SWP is registered, the fund doesn't stop to ask whether your returns are positive or negative. It simply continues paying the amount you've instructed by redeeming units every month until the available corpus is exhausted or you choose to stop the SWP. Also, some of you may be wondering whether you can start an SWP from an existing mutual fund investment that has grown over the years. The answer is absolutely yes. In fact, if your investment has already accumulated healthy gains over time, it can often be a good starting point for an SWP. Now back to our video. So the key takeaway is this: if you maintain a healthy gap between the fund's return and your SWP rate, you can potentially draw cash flows for long periods without damaging the corpus. In fact, even after years of withdrawals, the corpus may still remain intact and in some cases may even grow large enough to be passed on to the next generation. But when the gap is weak, the picture can be very different. The monthly payout still feels reassuring because the money keeps landing in your account, but underneath, the corpus may slowly begin to erode. So stop asking only, how much can I withdraw? Start asking, what happens to my corpus if I keep withdrawing this for 5, 10, or even 15 years? That is the question that protects you. Now back to that retired father. For decades, the default answer for monthly income has been fixed deposits or bonds, and for good reason. The rate is fixed, the payout is predictable, and it feels safe. An SWP is a different animal altogether. Your money remains invested in the market, so the value can fluctuate and returns are not guaranteed, and the payout is generated by redeeming units from your investment. So for most retirees, the real answer is not FD versus SWP. It is FD and SWP working together. The safety and stability of the FDs can cover essential monthly expenses, while a portion of the long-term money can be allocated to the right mutual fund strategy from which a measured SWP can be drawn. How you split the two depends on your age, your monthly need, your emergency cash, and how much market swing you can actually sleep through. Used that way, an SWP becomes one of the best retirement income tools you have. You're setting up an SWP for yourself or your parents, primarily start with the fund, not the payout. A 6 to 7% withdrawal from a good equity fund, which historically has delivered upward of 12%, can be a good beginning. This is a healthy gap between what the fund earns and what you withdraw. The wider the gap, the stronger your cushion and the longer your SWP survives. Let me close with a very simple analogy. Imagine your corpus is a large pot of water. Every year rain falls into that pot, that rain is your investment return. Every month, a bird comes and drinks some water from it, and that bird is your SWP. If the rain coming in is comfortably more than what the bird drinks, the pot remains healthy and can keep rising over time. And even if a flock of eagles come once in a while, think of that as a market correction, and take away some extra water, the pot can still recover if the rain is strong enough. But if the bird starts drinking almost as much as the rain, or worse, more than the rain, then the pot will slowly start emptying. And that, in one image, is the real logic of SWP. If this helped, share it with someone in your family who is retired, close to retiring, or trying to build a monthly income from their savings. I'm Kishan Jakhotia, and see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.